Have you been thinking that maybe a condo is right for you, but you don't know where to get started? Today, we're going to show you different styles of condos that are available here in the Cincinnati area. Make sure to stay through the end because we've got some tips regarding HOA fees and financing that you're not going to want to miss. Hi, I'm Rhonda with Rhonda Everett Group and Comey and Shepherd Realtors. And on this channel, we talk all about buying, selling, and living in Cincinnati. And condos are big here. I mean, not Florida big, but they're everywhere. Different shapes, sizes, and types in all different parts of town. There are, however, a couple of styles that have been built over and over and over again by the same builders throughout town. So we're going to give you an idea of what those look like. First, we're going to Harbor Watch in Mason, and it is a rather large community built around very large ponds or lakes, as we like to call them here in Ohio. The bottom floor is a direct walkout to the ponds and the grass. So a lot of people who have kids or dogs or like to take a lot of walks sometimes will prefer those units. The main level units have no steps, have direct access usually to garages if there are garages. And then the upper levels have balconies and vaulted ceilings. Now, main floor units do normally have a higher price tag than the upper and lower level units because having no steps for many people is much easier to handle. So those usually will be higher priced. And these units, honestly, the style of unit is all over town. Now let's look at some units that have their own private entrance. They still have that same kind of stacked style where someone is above or below. And there are some units where everybody has a garage. Some even have a 2-car garage. And then there are others where there's only 4 garages, but there's 6 units. So somebody is not getting a garage. And so you really just have to see which community you're in and how those are configured. But there are different versions of these kind of all over town. Again, that main level is usually no steps and does have a higher price point. The private entrance style is a little bit more expensive. And the question that I would say we get the most is, are we going to hear the people above or below us and next to us? And that's a great question, right? I feel like anybody who's ever lived in an apartment building, you know, when the neighbor kept you up or woke you up at 6 o'clock in the morning because you could hear every single step that they took. This is important. But what I will say is things that started being built in sometime in the 90s, they started adding an air gap so that noise and sound could not be transferred from one unit to the next. I know personally, I have lived in similar situations, and when that air gap was used, we did not hear anything from the neighbors. Lastly, townhomes come in a variety of shapes and sizes, but the key to those is that you have your own private entrance and you have multiple floors within the same unit. Many of these do have their own garages, although some of the older style may have a carport or nothing at all. And if you don't have garage, you should have some assigned parking, and hopefully there's also plenty of guest parking. That's always something to check out. So even in an affordable community, the ranch style home where basically you have just a 1-floor unit and then a basement, those always go higher, probably 15 to 20% higher than the 2-story neighbors. And why is that? More demand. So why choose a condo or a townhome instead of single family? Well, one reason is being able to get into a school district or an area that maybe you would not otherwise be able to afford. For instance, Mason and Landon, which is part of King's schools, you can still find condos under $225, but good luck finding a single family house at that price. But also amenities. Most of these are pool communities. Many of them also have walking trails and lakes and lovely settings. I even saw one with tennis courts. It really just depends, which community you're in, but many of these are also near everything, which makes them super convenient. So here's what you need to remember. If financing, the HOA fees are kind of included as part of your payment when it comes to figuring your debt to income ratio. So it's really important to figure out what those HOA fees are and try to figure out what you can do as far as principal and interest, taxes, insurance, and HOA fee. I will say it is a little harder to kind of get a beat on what you can afford when it comes to condos, because you can see this price here and everything that's included in that, you can afford it. But then you go over here and the HOA fees are higher and it just blows your budget and it doesn't work. The good news is that insurance at least is a little bit less expensive because most of the buildings are taken care of by the HOA. And I hear you. You have this great FHA, VA, or USDA loan that's available to you, and that's going to help you afford those HOA fees. However, most condos are not FHA, VA, or USDA approved. Now, what does that mean? They have to be approved on some list, and we can go search for that. But many of these places either haven't kept up with that approval, or there's maybe one or two in an area where there's a ton of condos. So it's kind of a guessing game, but I would just assume most condos cannot be financed FHA, VA, or USDA. You're going to want to figure out how to maybe do a 3% conventional or a 5% conventional and see if you can make that work. Just in case we cannot find you that kind of needle in a haystack. And investors, if you're thinking like buying a condo is the easiest way to kind of manage a property from far away, I mean, you're not wrong. But please note that many of the units around here, the communities around here, have started to change their bylaws. So no rentals are allowed, or they've reached their max and they have been cutting back. So even if you're someone who's wanting to buy a condo, maybe rent it out in the future because you might get relocated, I can tell you what's happening today, but unfortunately, we can't predict what the community and HOA are going to do in the future. So just keep that in mind. We're not saying it can't happen. We're just saying that it can change. So does that help? Are you ready to start looking for a condo? Check out the description below and contact any of us from Run to Everett Group. We will be happy to help you find where you belong in Cincinnati. And check out this next video with more information about condo life here in Cincy.